Boom. What is up, my friends, and welcome to another edition of the XFL Week in Review. I am your host, Mark Perry, editor of XFL News Hub. Has there anything been going on? Have you guys heard any news this week? Yes, we have it all for you. The XFL and NFL collaboration, the USFL draft, which is tomorrow, and so much more. Plus, all sorts of stuff, including in our social media segment, we're going to talk fantasy football because that's right. I'm going to announce our fantasy football website that you can sign up with today on the show, but that's a little bit later in the show because I know you nerds love your fantasy football. We're going to bring it to you right here from your friends from XFL and CFL News Hub. All right, first, if you want to be part of the show, email podcast at XFL News Hub with your thoughts or record an MP3 or video on your phone, and we'll play it on next week's show. Or you can leave us a voicemail like people did this week. 888-430-7692, extension 3. Remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We're on Stitcher, Audible, Player FM, Amazon Music, Google, Spotify. You can leave us a review on there. We'll appreciate that. Give us a 5-star, spread the word, help spread the word about this podcast and the Markcast. Make sure you get them in there too. Spread the word, let people know that there is great content out there covering spring football. And you can watch this show Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. I have yet to set up, I keep saying this every week, I'm going to set up my Twitch to play some Madden. I haven't even gotten to it because I've been a busy guy. Actually, countdown to kickoff is now 61 days, I believe. Is that correct? Let's see. I'm going to change that. I totally forgot that. 361 days until kickoff for the XFL. Now, June 18th is supposed to be the XFL Player Combine. I have a feeling that might change. We'll get into that later in the show. January 9th, we heard The Rock and Danny Garcia back in January talk about the XFL training camp to begin, and the XFL kickoff scheduled for February 18th, 2023. Now, we didn't get a big announcement on social media or anything like that from the XFL this week, but we did get something very huge today. We're going to get into that, the XFL and NFL collaborations. But that's not the only thing that's going on. The USFL's draft is tomorrow. And the USFL dropped a ton of news this week. We're going to get into all that, the new uniforms, the draft that's going to happen tomorrow, news tidbits about the draft. I'll tell you about if the schedule was, I'll get into the whole schedule thing, when that's going to come out. That's all coming up on this show. But speaking of the draft, so on tomorrow, so the draft is going to be from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern, all on social media. It's not going to be covered live. There's no live stream or any of that kind of stuff. I go into articles if you go to XFL News Hub of why I think that is. But here, with your friends from XFL News Hub and the Markcast, we are going to give you coverage like no other. So on tomorrow, February 22nd at 6 p.m. Eastern live, Reed will be on live on the Markcast for kind of like this pre-show excitement about the USFL draft, going over all the details. Then at 7 p.m. when the draft kicks off, we will be here live again. That's right. So we're going to stream live at 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. And we will we'll just hang out. We'll go over draft details. We'll look at the first players picked in the draft, and then that's going to be it. And then on Wednesday, Reed is going to come back on and do a live stream at 6 p.m. Eastern. You're not going to want to miss it, where they recap all the draft news that's going to happen in the next 2 days. The USFL draft is going to be a lot of fun. There's a ton of fan interest. I am super into it too. We have all of our reporters. They have their teams. They have their marching orders. We're going to write articles recapping the team's draft and how they did, and so much more coming because we cover everything spring football on the show. So Thanks for being a part of the show. Thanks for joining us on this huge week of news. Finally, we get some news to talk about. But first, I want to make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. Smash the like button right now and subscribe to this channel. Put on the notifications anytime we go live. Do it for us, do it for the Markcast, so that when we go live with a stream, you'll be one of the first to hop on board with that. The USFL kickoff is less than 60 days away. The draft is tomorrow. Training camp is a month away. Things are getting hot in the spring football world. So what I need you to do is to spread the word. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 100 likes. I want 100 likes this episode to show people that, yes, there is a huge fan base for the XFL and the USFL, and that spring football is here to stay in the United States of America, and it may be international, So do that for us today. So if you like football, then like and subscribe to our channel. Let's get to 100 likes. I want to get to 100 likes for this episode. We have the question of the week, your reaction to this XFL NFL collaboration. Some fans are confused by it. I'm not confused, and I can kind of lay it out for you. This is not a developmental league for the NFL per se. We'll get into, you want to get in the nitty gritty. We'll get all to that in the social media stuff. So what we're going to do is first, we're going to tackle the XFL and NFL collaboration. We'll get into the USFL draft, a ton of USFL. We got also the uniforms that came out. So we have a whole thing about the uniforms. That was a huge video on our channel this week, recapping that. And then we're going to rank the USFL uniforms for you here. See what you think about that. That's in another segment, plus some more USFL news. Then we're going to get into our social media aspect of the show, where I'm going to take your questions. So leave a message on the chat. Just say hello. We'll get to you guys there in chat. And then also, but when we start that, we're going to talk about fantasy football, because XFL News Hub, your friends from XFL News Hub, have basically spent the last year on and off developing a fantasy football application for you to use. It is live. It is on the web, and I'm going to tell you what the URL is, but you have to wait until we get to that segment, so I can explain all of that. But I need to really get into this news. All right, my friends. So without further ado, let's just get into the week that was the XFL and USFL. Oh, and I also got new headphones and a new microphone. And I'm wearing my XFL hat, because anytime there's big XFL news, we got to drop the XFL hat, Christmas special jobber, whatever it is. So without further ado, let's just get into some XFL news, shall we?
Excited, I am motivated, and man, this one is humbling. I am so honored to be able to share this very big announcement with you guys that the XFL is officially collaborating with the NFL, the National Football League. And the whole idea about the XFL NFL collaboration is to grow the game of football, the game that we all love, the game that we are passionate about. Now that the XFL is joining forces with the NFL with one goal in mind, which is innovation opportunities to advance the game of football. But in addition to, the innovation opportunities, we're also looking to not only grow the game of football, but also create opportunities for player development on and off the field. And as an XFL owner, as you guys know, my number one priority will always be the players and creating more opportunities for them. So we're just getting started. What a force to be reckoned with, the XFL and the NFL. I'll keep you guys posted. I love you guys. Here we go.
Yes, I've been a part of the XFL's Executive Vice President of Football Ops for the last couple of months, and really proud to be a part of what's going on and the energies that are going on. And as The Rock mentioned there, we have a nice relationship, a collaboration with the NFL that we've been working on for the past few months, the Football Ops Department and Troy Vincent, on player safety, physically, mentally, some equipment developments, technology developments, officiating and rules developments that we're kind of collaborating on and talking about, trying to just evolve the game and have the best practices for the player experience, for the player development, not only in state-wise, but also some international developments and collaborations that we've been working on and will continue to work on. So I think it's an exciting opportunity for us, the XFL, for also the NFL to, hey, let's do some things. Let's work with some things with the XFL that we've been wanting to do, but you guys can really sink your teeth into it and get it done for us. So I think it's an exciting collaboration all the way around, Pat.
All right, so you heard from The Rock and Mark Ross, Executive Vice President with the XFL, talking about this huge news about the XFL and NFL talking collaboration. This is a press release that came out. So first it was broke within 15 minutes, then the press release came out. But according to a report by Ben Fisher of Sports Business Journal, the XFL and NFL will be collaborating on health and safety and other subjects, one of which is international play. I've tried to get a comment from the league about what that all means. XFL co-owner and chairwoman Danny Garcia told Fisher that NFL deal vindicated the XFL's commitment to innovation and player development. Quote, I think it's become very credible. So as a result of that, you get an opportunity like this where you have alignment, Garcia said. It's just bringing truth to who we are and what we stand for. Fisher also said that the XFL and NFL have been talking since the Q3 of 2021. Quote, discussions with the NFL over ways to collaborate began in the third quarter of 2021. XFL President Russ Brandon said 2021 third quarter would be this fall. August, September kind of thing. So basically the CFL talks kind of broke down in March, April, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And then the XFL kind of took a little break. Mike Mitchell even had reported that there might have been some thought maybe that they weren't going to go ahead with the XFL. There was some rumblings about that, but they decided they were going to do it, reached out to the NFL, and now the rest is history. So the collaboration between the NFL, XFL, and NFL is now confirmed. Remember, several months ago, Danny Garcia dropped an Easter egg on her Instagram account, something that we talked about on this show, when she showed a picture of the XFL ownership guide, which you can see on my screen here. Underneath that guide looked like something, if you zoom in, super nerd zoom in, it looked like the NFL logo. This clearly was what they were talking about with the NFL. Now, The Rock put out the tweet about the news, about the exciting times for the XFL joining forces, lots of news coverage. So what does the press release actually say? So the XFL today announced that it would collaborate with the NFL on select innovation programs to further expand the game of football and create increased opportunity for player development both on and off the field. Health and safety will be a principal area of focus in both learning and innovation, with the XFL working with the NFL on forward-thinking physical and mental fitness programs for players, the study of playing surfaces and equipment, and the sharing of game trends and data. Quote, we're extremely pleased with the collaboration with the NFL in these important areas. Danny Garcia said, we are bringing forward the XFL that is progressive and forward-thinking when it comes to innovation, leveraging the newest technology to enhance game day experience. We have an open field for innovative rules to enhance in-game access, sharing insights and practices between the XFL and NFL will do a tremendous amount of good for the game of football and support the player ecosystem overall. Additional avenues for collaboration may include international football development and scouting. Interesting. As well as officiating, including the testing of different game rules for player protection and enhanced overall play. XFL kickoff could be coming to the NFL. And of different technologies to enhance officiating. Maybe that's those lasers the USFL was talking about. Quote, the XFL has shown us that innovation is one of its core principles. We are hopeful that this relationship will support further development and improvements in the game of football at all levels, Troy Vincent, NFL Executive Vice President of Football Operation, said. Huge announcement coming from the XFL and NFL. We have our own Mike Mitchell was talking about this months ago, about how the XFL and NFL were talking. Now we have proof. Now the question is this lead to a potential TV deal with the NFL Network? They are friends. They've been talking. Lots of people inside of the XFL have a great working relationship, including Mark Ross being on NFL Network. Now, we get more details on this collaboration from Kevin Seifert. He's got more on the story, including how the XFL sees itself as a petri dish to experiment, how player sharing will not be part of any partnership, how the XFL is about innovating the game of football, and how there could be regional combines in the fall. So XFL president, this is talking to Kevin Seifert. So XFL president Russ Brandon explains how the XFL is a petri dish for the NFL. Quote, the NFL-XFL agreement will give the NFL a petri dish to experiment with proposed rules, test new equipment, and develop prospective officials and coaches. Notice, he did not say players. Why? So the XFL and NFL could work together to develop coaches and officials, but what about players? Will Danny Garcia put that thing to rest, saying no? Ask if the XFL could one day evolve into a position to allocating NFL players or structure another kind of sharing agreement like what happened in NFL Europe. Garcia said, quote, that's a no. We are a spring league. We will play at the highest level in the spring. There is not the anticipation of any player sharing that changes the dynamic. That's not how we are executing our vision, close quote. So this is not, again, all of these leagues are quote unquote developmental leagues because everybody wants to make the big money in the NFL. But these guys are positioning themselves as we are not partnered 100% with players, but they're clearly all working together for the for the best that could happen for these players. Seifert says that the XFL and NFL, of course, met back in the fall of 2021, which we know Ben Fisher reported on that too. So Garcia, Johnson, and Jerry Carnell of the Redbird Capital Partners met last fall with NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and Executive Vice President of Football Operations Troy Vincent to begin discussing the partnership. XFL Chairwoman Danny Garcia then talks about how the XFL wants to be good stewards of football. Quote, one of the things we made clear starting off is that we are going to take a stewardship position on the game and the game of football, expanding it and being impactful to the industry. So I would say the field sees us as what we are, which is deeply leaning into innovation. We were confident that having important conversations and articulating what we wanted to accomplish would be advantageous to anyone sitting in the room with us. We're excited about that. Our relationship with football and the NFL are deep and long-standing, so it is natural process. Now, if you are the NFL, even though if you are the big bad monster daddy NFL, and The Rock and Danny Garcia and Jerry Cardinal come calling, you're going to pick up the phone and talk to them. That's the kind of stroke that you have behind the XFL. The USFL has its own stroke. I mean, you're talking Fox Sports, big company with lots of money and lots of resources to pull off a league also. So it is interesting that the NFL is sitting back and saying, hey, we're kind of collaborating a little bit with the USFL. And hey, in this particular instance, we are really collaborating with the NFL. And to have the XFL, to have the NFL in its pocket, believe me, this isn't the only thing that I think they have in store for each other. I think a television deal with the NFL Network would be huge, just because think of in terms of what does the NFL Network have to show after the Super Bowl. They have nothing going on until player combines in March. You could run with the XFL during that time. Fans could get used to the different rules that might come into the NFL. I think it would be a home run for the NFL to have XFL games on their network. But that being said, also on the article, Russ Brandon tells Seifert that regional combines could be in the fall. Brandon said that the league is working on plans for regional combines this fall, where it will test new approaches to evaluating players with an eye towards opening training camps by January 2023. This is interesting because this is not part of the original timeline that the XFL had early on. If we go back to our timeline thing here about this June 18th XFL player combine thing, some of the things that I have heard is that they're going to potentially not do exactly what they did before, which was every city having a combine. They might break it up into sections and regional. So here's something that Russ Brandon talks about in the article. So it seems like it's not going to be like the combine was, where the XFL was in, DC and New York, which I was really hoping, and St. Louis and all these other areas. That was more of a show. That was more of a promotional kind of thing. I think what the XFL is going to do now is potentially have maybe up to 3 or 4 regional combines where they invite players in and do some kind of things there, but it's not going to be like it was before. I don't know how well the league felt it was successful when they did that back in the past. So I think it's interesting that he said the fall combine, because if the XFL is following the normal business, what they did before, which is training camps in January and then the season kicking off in February, then the draft was in October. So if you're doing combines, are they going to be in September during the NFL season? But you really want to work out the guys who are not on practice squad. Like, how is that going to kind of work? Does the fall count? Is August the fall? That's still, to me, the summer. So we'll have to see how that turns out. Again, everything is fluid with the situation. But again, huge news of the XFL collaborating with the NFL. That really gives some oomph to the XFL. The USFL has oomph with its partnership with Fox. So the spring football wars, my friends, is totally on. So today, the USFL unveils its unique format for the inaugural player draft happening February 22nd and 23rd. Time will start at 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern is when they should have everything wrapped up. Of course, if you followed the XFL News Hub yesterday, you found out that the first round draft was picked on Fox Sports. The draft order is the Michigan Panthers, Tampa Bay Bandits second, my team, Philadelphia Stars, New Jersey Generals with the 4th pick, Houston Gamblers, Stallions 6, Maulers 7, and Nolans Breakers are at 8. So Birmingham will host this historic 2-day event. Of course, I said on February 22nd and 23rd, the new United States Football League today unveils the details of its 35-round inaugural player draft. This historic 2-day event will take place February 22nd, 23rd in Birmingham, home of the regular season games in 2022. Quote, "We're looking forward to conducting our inaugural USFL draft and selecting the league's first 280 players over 2 days," said Brian Woods, USFL President, Football Operations. For the 2022 season, we're using an analytic modified snake system that's equitable for all our teams during our first ever draft. Our teams will have needs at every position, so we will choose a unique format that made our teams focus on evaluating and drafting key positions first. So officially known as the player selection meeting, day one of the inaugural USFL draft will be Tuesday, February 22nd at 6 p.m. Central Time, which is 7 p.m. Eastern, all the way till 10 o'clock Eastern. It will consist of 12 rounds and will distinctively progress by position, beginning with quarterback round 1. So we will know the quarterbacks for the USFL. It's around 7 p.m. who will be the big name quarterbacks in the USFL. Followed by edge rusher, defensive end for rounds 2 through 4, offensive tackle 5 through 7, cornerbacks 8 through 11, and back to quarterbacks in round 12. Teams will have 2 minutes per selection for day one. For the first time in any major sports draft, the selection order will use an analytical modified snake system between position rounds so that each team has 2 number 1 picks at 2 positions. I think this is something similar the XFL did. Now, of course, yesterday, the USFL Draft Lottery draw was conducted live nationally on FS1 during Speak for Yourself by co-hosts Marcellus Wiley and Emmanuel Echo. This resulted in each team being assigned a selection number 1 through 8 for each round. The Michigan Panthers will make their first ever draft pick in the new USFL. The following inaugural player draft order illustrates how the specific team's draft positions for 280 picks in 35 rounds used an analytic modified snake. We've talked about that for fairness. There are 3 highlighted rounds to demonstrate how this unique format will work. So round 1, you have what we had talked about. And then you have round 2. The Breakers will have the first pick with Pittsburgh second and so on. That's kind of how the format goes. Day 2 of the USFL draft will start at 9 a.m. Central Time. So I believe that would be 10 a.m. on Wednesday, February 23rd, and will proceed until 35 rounds are complete. During the rounds 13 through 23, teams will have 90 seconds to execute a pick, and the position order will be wide receiver. That's going to be a good one for Wednesday. Safety, center, inside linebacker, and guard. The selection time will be 1 minute for rounds 23 through 35, and the position order will be defensive tackle, nose, running back, fullback. Wow, that's really late in the game. Outside linebacker, kicker, and punter. Tight end and H-back in round 35, and long snapper round 34, long snapper round 35. Teams are required to draft at least one player from each position group. Should a team let its time expire in any round without a selection, it can still choose a player, but it risks letting the team on the clock take the player it was considering. So don't be late. I've been to fantasy football drafts and people sit there and take forever. Just make a pick and move on. Trades between teams to achieve a different selection order or acquire a player or players will not be permitted, so there's no trading picks. However, a team may elect to pass during any round in exchange for a compensatory pick that may be used at the conclusion of the different position round. If more than one team utilizes a compensatory pick, it will be given in a given round. The draft order within that position round will determine the order for the compensatory selections. USFL teams are drafting from a pool of 450 to 500 players. We've heard that the pool was 3,000 plus. They whittled it down to 500. So when you see these guys on Twitter saying I'm going to be in the USFL draft, you signed up. You might not be part of that 500 players. And these are who have already signed contracts to play in the league. Only players who have signed contracts are eligible for selection. Again, I think they might have had all 3,000 sign a contract, but who knows? The USFL will also conduct a 10-round supplemental draft on March 10th to select 80 more players. This gives potential players more time to opt in with a signed contract. Teams will have 2 minutes between selections during the supplemental draft, and teams may select any position group. At the conclusion of the supplemental draft, each team will have 45 players for a league total of 360 players. Once the season begins on April 16th, each team's active roster will have 38 players plus a 7-man practice squad. Closed to the general public, the USFL will provide real-time coverage of the 2022 player draft, including selection, reporting, features, and behind-the-scenes content through its league team and social channels. So you want to check out that. Plus, hang out with XFL News Hub, as we will have coverage of all of the USFL drafts picks from day one and from day 2. Make sure you smash and like and subscribe to this channel so you can get all the USFL information. And of course, spread the word to football fans that, hey, there is more football after the NFL season is over. So smash that like button and subscribe. Also, some other news that came out, the USFL draft player pool will not be released before the draft. This was something that fans were clamoring for. So with the USFL draft tomorrow, fans wanted to know who's in the draft pool. On Friday, we already know, of course, the draft structure or what it's going to be. Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, a friend of the show, perhaps. He doesn't say fledgling XFL or fledgling USFL, does he? Because he could be their boss, sort of. Says there won't be a release of all of the draft eligible players by the USFL. Quote, the USFL won't be disclosing the list of available players in advance of the draft. Thus, we don't know who they are until their names are called next week. Now, being the league's first draft, as much as fans would love to watch it unfold, like the XFL, the people power behind the USFL is a little different as they're trying to keep the costs down. So it's much more limited than the XFL at this time. Also, the first overall pick in the 2020 XFL draft was Rashard Davis, wide receiver James Madison, who never played with the DC Defenders or the XFL. I believe he was picked up by the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think he still might be on their squad, or maybe he got cut later and now he's on somebody else. The USFL maybe is trying to avoid this by having players sign the contract before the draft. So it would kind of be embarrassing for the league to draft a player, then that player get a call and they're like, nah, I'm not interested, that happened a lot in the XFL draft from, people getting drafted. We had one of the agents on that they were like, no, I'm not interested because of the pay, et cetera, et cetera. So unlike the XFL where we knew the QBs before the draft, the QBs will be the first round in this draft. So we'll have, of course, the live coverage, the full coverage, including, we have the pre-show tomorrow with Markcast and me with Mark of XFL News Hub at 7 p.m. And then, of course, the other then they'll have a recap on Markcast at 6 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. I want to note that players who sign their contract are part of the USFL draft. So these guys that are on Twitter and they're taking a picture that they had signed the contract, they're part of the draft pool. If you did not get a contract, then you are not part. You could be in the draft pool, but if you don't have a contract that you signed, then you're not part of the player draft. Does that make sense? So you're not part of that 400, 500 player pool. Yes, anybody could go and sign up for the list, but if you don't have a contract, you're not part of the player pool. So when you see guys online that, take that screenshot of the contract that they signed, then they're in fact now part of the draft pool, not the draftable pool, not just the people the tons of football players that signed up. That was something I had mentioned earlier, but then I got clarification. So no, actually, so when you see a guy on Twitter that says they signed the contract, that they are going to be draft eligible tomorrow in the USFL draft pool. So exciting stuff from the USFL. Who doesn't love a nice draft? One of the guys joked, I think it was Pat on the Markcast, saying that, hey, Josh Johnson, easy. He's going to be the first pick because Josh Johnson was the first pick in the AAF. And Josh Johnson really kind of was a pick in the XFL as well. I mean, he came on, Luis Perez got traded, and the rest is history. I thought Josh Johnson might have had the run for an XFL MVP because he was starting to heat up. Great times, but he's with the Ravens, Jets, wherever he is now. So we'll have to find out. All that exciting stuff is coming tomorrow, my friends. We don't have to wait. We don't have to wait. We are less than 60 days away from the USFL kickoff. Today, the USFL revealed its uniforms. That's home jerseys, that's away jerseys, helmets, the whole deal. Make sure you smash that like button, and let's get started with the first team on the list, the Birmingham Stallions, and they are coached by Skip Holtz. So there you have it, the home team, essentially, for the USFL. Some fans say, oh, they kind of look like the 49ers. I think I like the look. I have no problem with it. I like the color scheme. Of course, they're using the retro colors as well, but a nice little modern look to the Stallions. Next up, the Pittsburgh Maulers, coached by one Kirby Wilson. I really like the color scheme in this one. I think the Pittsburgh Mall, I think they definitely modernized the look of this uniform. I really like this. This is probably one of my top favorite uniforms that have come out today. And next up, my Tampa Bay Bandits, coached by Todd Haley. This is my favorite team in the USFL, Tampa Bay Bandits. I love the color scheme. I think they really, again, took another retro look and modernized it. And I'm super happy with this one. Next up, the Houston Gamblers, coached by a one Kevin Sumlin. I don't know, for me, this might be one of my favorites. I really like the kind of like gray with the black and the red. I really like the color scheme on this one. I think this is one of the top uniforms they got. Next up, the New Jersey Generals, coached by Mike Riley. There's not a lot of work with the New Jersey Generals logo, but I think that they did a good job using the colors and kind of giving it, spicing up the look with the New Jersey Generals. But I'm like, meh, it's a tough one to do with that one. Next up, Michigan Panthers, coached by Jeff Fisher. I'm liking the Panthers look as well, taking that old school logo, making it more of a modern, clean-cut uniform. Doesn't look too much like the Birmingham Stallions, same color scheme, but I liked it. Next up, maybe my favorite, the New Orleans Breakers, coached by Larry Fedora. I really like this color scheme. It's unique. It's different. A lot of the different blues. This probably is my favorite. This would be a great Florida kind of team, but New Orleans Breakers, I think they have one of the top ones. Next up, the Philadelphia Stars, coached by Bart Andrews, and just see for yourself. If there is a list out there that puts this at number one, they are crazy. Everybody's been talking about it's the McDonald's uniform with McDonald's colors, the McDonald's football team, all sorts of memes going on Twitter. But there you have it. All of the teams in the USFL, their jerseys, their helmets, their gear. What do you think? Smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment. Which one is your favorite USFL uniform and which one is your least favorite uniform? And remember, the USFL is kicking off April 16th on Fox and NBC. All right. Who doesn't love to have some fun with a little ranking? This is from Patrick Ruffino. He was on the Markcast talking about this, but we'll go over his ranking. I want to know what you think in the comments of his ranking. I'll give my take as well. So we're less than 60 days away from the beginning of the USFL season. We have the logos. We have everything. We just went through each video, and here we go with his list. And let me know what you think. Number 8. He has the Philadelphia Stars. Yes, this one is terrible. Completely agree. The whole McDonald's thing, I saw it as soon as it came out. It was like 5 seconds later, Twitter was blowing up with McDonald's. So definitely, I am with you on that. We're number 8, not a fan. And the Philadelphia Stars, sorry, Philly. Sorry, Philly fans. You've got the worst McDonald's outfits. I mean, they're not terrible, but they're not bad. I actually got a chance to chat a little bit with one of the designers of some of these uniforms. So that was kind of cool. Number 7, he has Birmingham Stallions. I actually would probably have them up a little bit higher on my list. I didn't have a problem with that, but they were kind of, this is the bellwether franchise. So the XFL has really, it's the St. Louis Battlehawks is the bellwether franchise. The NFL, you could say the Cowboys and they've been meh. So that's you would think that it might be a little bit hotter than that, but still, I don't have a problem with the Birmingham Stallions. Definitely not in my top 3. Down at number 7, meh, okay. Michigan Panthers, he's got at number 6. Is the Panthers better than the Birmingham Stallions? Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I like the blue and gold kind of colors. But again, aside from the number 8, I like all of the uniforms. But number 5, he has the Tampa Bay Bandits. I'm going to be like, no, dude. And by the way, doesn't this logo look like somebody else's logo from the XFL, perhaps? Does the NFL have a problem with this one as well? Hint, hint. Dallas fan out there, does this look like something? Do you recognize it? But I like the red. I like the white and the gray and the red stripe down the middle. And of course the Bandits. So I'm excited about this one. And it kind of still has a Tampa Bay vibe to it, NFL vibe as well. So he's got that at number 5. At number 4, he's got the Houston Gamblers. Love the Houston Gamblers. I'd probably have this up in my number 2. I love the color scheme. I love it's got the black and the red, and I like the gray, kind of bluish gray with the black. I really like these uniforms. I think these are hot. This might even be my number 3. Pittsburgh Maulers. I like these colors. They did a good job. I mean, I like the purple, and this really doesn't feel Pittsburghy to me, but then it would be a ripoff if they went black and gold. But I like the purple and the orange. I think this is a good one too. Really like the Pittsburgh Maulers. I probably would have the Houston Gamblers maybe up to number 2. Nolan's Breakers, he had at number 2. For me, this was number 1. I freaking love this. The helmet looks great. The uniforms look cool with the different shades of blue. I really like them at NAS. At number 1, that would be my number 1. He had the New Jersey Generals as his number 1. I'd have this way down on the list, but he says, of course, he's biased with that one. He's a soft spot part in his heart for the East Coast roots. So he's got New Jersey Generals at number 1. Now, I would put New Jersey Generals maybe down at 6 and then shuffle all of these guys back up the list. That would probably be me and my, I don't know, New Jersey General. I probably would have put the Birmingham Stallions up another level and probably put the Generals at number 7, and then everybody else moves up with the Birmingham Stallions, Panthers, Bandits, Gamblers. I probably would have flipped over the Maulers, and then New Orleans Breakers would be number 1. So what do you think? That's his list of the top ranking of the USFL uniforms overall. And I put this tweet out there to head off any pre-written "these are ugly" uniform tweets and articles that came from the XFL. Now, I put this out because it actually happened. Within 30 seconds of the XFL dropping its logos or its uniforms, there was not enough time for the person to actually physically write the article and publish it. So it was pre-written of how it sucked. that they just dragged the images in and then that was their cheap pop. People like to be trolls online to get attention because they're hacks and they're not interesting whatsoever. I have nothing to bring to the table. So you can just be a hack and a troll because you're talentless. And that's what was happening. I didn't really see that much with the USFL uniforms. I think a lot of overall the smart people in the universe, the 80%ers, really liked the uniforms. And I thought they were great, except for the Philadelphia Stars. Other than that, I love the Breakers. I love the Bandits, and I can't wait to get some Bandit gear in the house. And I'm going to definitely order that. You could go online. You can go onto the store, order gear now. They'll give you a little coupon code. I think you get 15% off. So it'll save you. It could basically be free shipping. So you can head over to theusfl.com to order your merch. That is also live on their site right now. So let us know in the comments. What do you think? How would you rank the USFL uniforms? The USFL to hold their inaugural playoffs and championship game at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. Wow. Big pull. Very cool. So this was a press release released by the USFL early last week. The United States Football League has reached an agreement with Hall of Fame Village LLC to hold its inaugural playoffs and championship game at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio. Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium is a 20,000-seat professional-grade facility adjacent to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Big swing, big get. It hosts the annual Pro Football Hall of Shrine ceremony and the NFL Hall of Fame game, which is when they kick off the season in the NFL. They're basically the first preseason game is played there. Quote, we're excited to play our first playoff and championship game at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium, said Edward Hartman, USFL Executive Vice President, Business Operations. It's a beautiful stadium with all the facilities necessary to host football at the highest level. We're looking forward to crowning our first champion in the shadows of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Outstanding get by the USFL. Of course, they go through all the teams. The playoffs will begin Saturday, June 25th, as the top two teams in each division face each other in the league semifinals, and the final two teams will play in the inaugural. You notice how they say inaugural because they're distancing themselves from the history of the past USFL, sort of. We hear someone's like, oh, yeah, but then you're not acknowledged. I don't know. We don't know what that deal is. The final two teams will play their inaugural championship game Sunday, July 3rd. So not July 4th, July 3rd. I told my wife it was July 2nd. It's actually July 3rd. So they'll play that game on Sunday. I plan on being there. We will be there. XFL News Hub Army will be there, whether we do a meetup or if we do a live stream. Who knows what we're going to do. But I definitely want to get out there and meet everybody. So we'll be there. It's only 5 hours from where I live, so we'll be driving there. I looked up plane tickets. We blocked it on the calendar, so it is good to go. So I will be there at the USFL Championship game. Can't wait to meet all you knuckleheads. I hope you're out there too. It's been a bucket list of mine to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, to have this game there, and to be able to check out the Pro Football Hall of Fame. My wife was like, well, I don't know. I was like, babe, there's a bunch of Steelers stuff there. Oh, okay. So now she's all in. So we're honored, quote, we are honored that the state-of-the-art Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium was selected as the destination for the USFL's 2022 playoffs, says Mike Levy, President of Operations. Our facility and campus will provide the perfect setting and backdrop for the USFL's inaugural playoffs and championship, offering fans and guests visiting our destination multiple opportunities to be engaged at the birthplace of professional football. Very cool. The games allow the company, blah, 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 showcase their village. So super excited about that. Of course, they talk about the inaugural season taking place in Birmingham. Unfortunately, Protective Stadium is unavailable to host the USFL postseason due to the previously scheduled 2022 World Games. This was known by everybody involved. This was a little bit of an issue there that could have not made this go forward with the USFL in Birmingham, but this was out of the way. Roy S. Johnson had a great write-up, as always, excellent writer, about what happened there. but they had to move the game. They were trying to hopefully try to fit it in, but the timing just wasn't right. So this postseason, I think they chose a great place to do it. Definitely next year, I would assume it will be back in Birmingham. The problem for poor Birmingham was that, hey, having this championship game would have drawn a lot of interest and a lot of fans would have come to the city to check out the playoffs and maybe even the championship game. Now they're moving. However, they have nothing really to complain because they have the World Games showing up there too. So that is big news from the USFL and an exciting place to be. And my plan is to be there with the wife on that championship game, that July 3rd. I thought it was July 2nd. It's July 3rd. I think she'll be all right with that. But we will be there, and so will you, and we'll hang out. We'll have details as that gets closer. And the plethora of news that the USFL came out with, they tapped Sports Radar as their official sports data and integrity partner. This was a nice bit of news for them. This was the first piece of news that came out as they just hammered it every day last week with all sorts of exciting USFL news. So the Professional Football League, of course, launching in April, announced a foundational partnership with Sports Radar, the leading global sports technology company creating immersive experiences for fans and bettors. It's a multi-year agreement, reached the following competitive bids, established Sports Radar as the official sports data partner of the USFL and the league's official integrity partner. That's a big thing for these leagues when it comes to betting. The XFL had this integrity partner kind of thing going on too. So they fraud detection and all sorts of kind of stuff. So this is great news that they will be the data collection people for the XFL. This was the first of many announcements last week. Basically, the USFL said, we're going to wait one day, let the sports media sort of chill when it comes to the Super Bowl. And then and of course, let Mark have his podcast and the week before. And then we're just going to drop the hammer. And this was the beginning of that. So great partnership between the USFL and Sports Radar, as they will be the official data integrity partner. And maybe we can get some of that data for our fantasy website. I've reached out to them and waiting to hear back. So Sports Radar, I know you're listening. Give me a call, broskies. All right, we're going to take a little commercial break. We'll be back with our big fantasy football announcements, speaking of sports and data, after this. So stay tuned, my friends.
Coming up this week on the Markcast, Paul is away, and when the cat is away, the mice will play, the mouse will play. I am piloting the ship solo this week. We are keeping things afloat. Tremendous show. Most insane day in the world. We have all of your USFL stuff. We have all the uniform reveals. We have Pat Ruffino coming on from CFL and XFL News Hub to kind of break all that stuff down.
Also, when I think of stars, I don't think of ketchup and mustard. Never really a taste for me, but if someone else has an opinion on it, please feel free to share.
Then we have your regularly scheduled program today that was scheduled before the USFL blew up the world. We have CFL super agent Darren Gill.
But I can tell you that there's certainly players today that believe that the best way to get to the NFL is going to be through the USFL. I'm certainly aware of at least one player who had a verbal agreement with the CFL team to leave the CFL contract in the event that the USFL would be up and running, and that was granted.
We are joined by two-time Grey Cup champion of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Brandon Alexander.
What they built is on the ground. It's the layout. This is the foundation. Everything on top is just added pieces over the years. But that layout, that's something that's been here before I got here.
Longtime friend of the show, Daryl Davis, comes by to break down this week's CFL news.
A lot of these guys 10 or 12 years ago, I don't think any of these guys, even Mike Riley last year, at the status, at the ability they showed last year, 12 years ago, none of them would have started in the Canadian Football League.
We have Neil McAvoy, co-general manager and director of football operations for America's team, the BC Lions.
Early 2000s, mid 2000s, you came to BC plays, you weren't winning. And we have to get that mentality back.
And then finally, Jed Roberts, 13 years in Edmonton, comes by to talk about all the different things that the CFL could be doing to market the league in 2022.
It's exciting football, and I don't understand why we can't sell this league.
We have our big live show coming up in Birmingham. Lots of things coming down the pipeline. Like and subscribe. Crazy show this week. Paul's head would explode. I hope you enjoy.
All right, my friends, we are back. So before we get to your social media stuff, I want to talk about fantasy football. That's right. So for a long time, during when the XFL was building itself up, I asked Oliver Luck twice. Each time I met him and got a chance to chat with him, I said, "Are you going to have fantasy football?" And they said yes. And then we were getting closer and closer and nothing. And we got DFS, which I did pretty well in. We had a league here at XFL News Hub of DraftKings, which was fun and didn't last long, of course, because we all know what happened. But they did have DraftKings. From what I'm hearing when it comes to the USFL is, I don't even know if they're going to be on DraftKings. It's the vibe I'm getting is they're not going to be, is kind of what I've been hearing. Also, they have the Fox Sports Bet app. So I don't know. And I've heard that DFS and fantasy is not on the radar right now for the USFL, again, because they're trying to keep costs low, even though this would generate a ton of interest for the league. And this is such an integral part of football and why football is so popular. Yes, the betting aspect of it, but it's the fantasy aspect of it. This is how you engage your audience. This is what makes them interested more than just rooting for their home team. This helps them learn about the different players, and actually it will help them learn more about your league. I remember doing fantasy football for the XFL in the first iteration back when I think I had Tommy Maddox on my team, actually. And, of course, the people stopped playing it, but I still followed the league and just I knew some of the players and whatever. So it's been a year in the making. I've worked on this on the side as much as I could. I kind of put it down and picked it back up, reconfigured it, rethought of it, how it was gonna do it. So now we have, and I will let's see here. Now we have, where is my okay. Something fun for you. Uh-oh. It's not showing it. Or is it over here? Uh-oh, hold on. News Hub Fantasy. That's right. If you head over right now to newshubfantasy.com, you can actually create your account. You can sign up. So News Hub Fantasy is now your home to play fantasy football and fantasy wrestling all in one place. So leagues are now forming for the XFL. That's really ahead of the curve, my friends. You were a year out. USFL, CFL, and even fan control football fantasy leagues are forming now. We also, basically, this site's been out for a year and we've been doing pro wrestling. So pro wrestling fans, there is an AEW fantasy wrestling piece to it. So basically a year ago, I started an AEW fantasy wrestling site to basically build and try to figure out all this stuff. There's drafting and there's statistics and all sorts of cool stuff. So now I am putting it all together. Now, originally I was going to have separate sites. Now you're looking at this right now and you're like, meh, this doesn't look very nice. Well, that's because the skin, this is why we're calling it the alpha stage, because I want you to be there at the beginning. I'm going to need people to help me test this thing. I'm going to want to know if you run into bugs or if things don't work right for you. The real ultimate goal for News Hub Fantasy is to be ready and bulletproof by the time the XFL kicks off a year from now. So this is kind of like a trial run, work out the kinks so that we are locked and loaded when the XFL returns in 2023. The fun thing about this, and that makes it different than anybody else out in the universe when it comes to fantasy sports, is that you guys are in control of how this thing goes. So if you tell me that, hey, it would be cool if it could do this, I will go and do it. We could do crazy stuff with this league. We could have a master league where you play the XFL, then you play the USFL, then you play the CFL, and you play back to back to back, string that all along, and to have a final grand champion supermaster at the end of the year. There's so many things that we can do because it's really just sports, it's data. And what we do with that could be a lot of fun. So be part of that. You can sign up for newshubfantasy.com. If you want to be an early tester, email support@newshubfantasy.com. And if you think this looks ugly, don't worry about it, because I'm bringing you guys in the beginning. This is the beginning. I'll take a look to check out. This is what the skin is going to look like coming real soon. This is finalized stuff being worked on, scalable on a mobile app, a mobile device. This is browser based right now. Eventually we'll move to applications that you can just download. If anybody out there is a ASP.NET C# developer and would love to help out for some pizza money, I would love to grab a couple other hands to kind of work through this application. But so right now you can go to, it's newshubfantasy.com. You can create an account. You can log in. Let's do it right now. I'll show you. You don't think this is real? I'll just log in right here. So this is my account. Of course, XFL News Hub. If you ever want to email me, mark.perry@XFL News Hub. You can register for a new account if you forgot your password. All that works. It sends an email out. When you sign up, you get an email. You have to confirm your email address so we don't get any kind of spam people on there. This is hosted in the cloud, so it's not on some server. It's pretty strong. So once you sign in, there's all these different leagues. So this is your home for fantasy football, et cetera, et cetera. So you got XFL, USFL, CFL, fan control football, and AEW. As long as I could get the data, we can make the league work. So for example, say if you logged in and you signed up and you clicked on CFL, the real target, I would love to get USFL. I just don't know what the data is going to be like. That's the problem. It's an unknown. I do know what the CFL data is going to be like. So I'm really eyeing definitely to have something for the CFL season, but hopeful for the USFL season. So when you click on any one of these different pages, you'll get to see, so this is the CFL Fantasy, Canadian Football League, joining now. Drafts begin May 27th. You're not going to draft now, but on each of these home pages, what you get is the top players of the week. So if you're a gangster fantasy football player, your name will appear as a top player. If your team rocked your league, and you're going to show up right here, so you'll be able to see your top teams. You can join a league, you can create a league, and of course you can view your league. So here's a test league that I had created just to kind of figure things out. It gives you a URL that you can copy and paste and send to your friends, and they can log in. They can create an account. They'll automatically be added to your account, to your league. Leagues are only up to 8 players. Only 8 players, because there's only 8 teams. Same thing with the CFL. There's 9 teams, but you can only do 8 players. Then it's got your draft day. Basically, what will happen is once we get the kind of player data we need, you can be able to set up a pre-draft. So you can, make your pre-draft list going on there. We'll gather data from that. You set your lineups. You can chat with other members. You can see the other members' points and their league stuff. You can change the settings, contact help. You can look at other people's pages. Did I play around with this one yet? So you can see kind of like what their total points are, what their lineup is, their different teams. So you basically get like an individual page, which is kind of cool. So you can check out like people in your league. Maybe they're part of, there's part of the CFL, they're part of the USFL. Things like going on, like lineup changes and waiver wires. It takes care of all of that. The other nice thing about this system that I set up when we were doing the fantasy football fantasy wrestling, was that there's a problem that happens with fantasy football where fans drop out and they stop playing. It happens to all of us, the best of us, in these leagues where everybody's all fired up about the draft, but then never log in again. Well, actually, the system is smart enough to actually, after 2 or 3 weeks, depending on what we decide, but it's been done before on the wrestling side, that the league will take their person's lineup and actually just create the best possible lineup for them to make the league competitive. Because you don't want to go against a guy who's, half of his guys are out for the week or injured. The system will actually put those guys in to try to make it competitive. Because the goal here is not to just crush your opponents. We want everybody to play and be engaged from the beginning to the season and to the end. And that's why we came up with how we're going to kind of do that. Also, another thing to keep in mind is when it comes to the CFL and USFL and XFL, there's going to be 8 teams. You cannot have a fantasy football league where you draft individual quarterbacks. It just isn't going to work, because what's going to happen? Some person in the league is going to go the first 3 rounds and draft quarterbacks, and then you're going to have guys that aren't going to have any quarterbacks on their team. It happens when it happened to me when I did the XFL. I couldn't get a defense because somebody decided to pick up 2 defenses. Well, that's not fair. And guess what? I stopped playing because it was dumb. I was like, well, I'm always going to be at a disadvantage because I don't have a defense. So in this league, you're actually going to draft the team, especially when it comes to how frustrating it is to watch a CFL game and have your quarterback get pulled at the 1-yard line so they can put in a third stringer to run the ball in. So that is going to be part of the league now. Now this is up for debate. We could certainly talk about that and in a future iteration not have that. But as for now, to keep it simple so we can get through the season, that's kind of where I'm going with, you pick a single defense. That defense might also include the kicker. The CFL is tricky because what do you do? Because there's 9 teams. So somebody's going to have a bye week. How does that work? So those are the kind of tricks that we're going to have to figure out when it comes to fantasy. But if you want to be part of the decision-making process, you have ideas, you're a super fantasy nerd, then come check out newshubfantasy.com and be part of the beginning as we build this thing out. There's drafting pre-drafting will be available next when we get the rosters. And I need to just kind of work out the kinks there. My goal is to kind of have that potentially down the road in the next week or 2. I'm hopeful that you can start messing around with pre-draft. The draft piece, we worked on that. That's going to need a lot of testing. That's going to be tricky to do, especially if there's a lot of people on the system and how you keep the clock going. There's so many aspects to it. We also need to get the CFL schedule, the CFL USFL schedule. How is that going to work? So there's so many aspects of this. But there is a site that you can sign up now. So you can sign up now, forget about it, and we'll alert you when, you can add players, when you can do your pre-draft and that kind of thing. And this is your site. So if you have ideas and you think it would be cool if we could do blah with fantasy football, then have at it. We'll do it. I mean, because we could do whatever we wanted with this data. Like I said, we could have a master fantasy football league where you play the XFL, then you play the USFL, then you play the CFL, and at the end, the champion is crowned as the supermaster nerd of fantasy football. We could do dynasty leagues if you wanted. You want to draft, Jordan Ta'amu or something like that, and keep him on whether he's on the USFL or XFL, and keep him on your roster for the next couple years. We could do dynasty leagues. We could do all sorts of stuff. It's just let your imagination run wild. Let me know. I'm a pretty smart guy and I'm a good darn developer, so I can make it happen. I'll figure out a way. Like I tell clients all the time, I'll say, hey, if you want to pay me, I can build you a Google, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. So maybe we should scale it down a little bit, huh? So there you go with the fantasy football. Again, the site is, not very shockingly, newshubfantasy.com. You can go check it out right now and sign up right now if you'd like. But we will have more details of that as we put the new skin on, as we add new things. I'll be talking about it probably every week from here on out on this show. So if you want to get the latest news here, and again, support at News Hub Fantasy if you want to be part of testing and helping out. Would love for guys to be in there trying to break the system and sending me like, hey, I found this bug, it did this or it didn't, just to keep me updated. It's going to be painful the first little while, but I think we can work it out. And there's enough fans that are willing to kind of be testers to kind of work out the kinks to get something really cool. So I'm super excited about that. That being said, all right, let's get to some of our chat guys here. Rangers King on the chat, YouTube chat. Remember, smash that like button. Subscribe, smash that like button. Ooh, we got a super chat too. I love super chats. Here we go. Rangers King 669. Andrew says, feel like your biggest show in ages, Mark. Super pumped. Yes, I am pumped Paladin Demo, I'm ready. Here we go. I'm here, ready to go. All right. He's always cooking dinner or something. Jason, do I watch this stream or SL Talk Show? That's up to you. And then people will type, okay. Jason says USFL took a big L today. So one of the things that we had talked about that we got some insider kind of news there was that we broke the story that the draft news was coming. We also broke the story that we felt that we've been hearing rumblings of the schedule coming out. A lot of fans were disappointed February 18th because the XFL didn't say anything. And we knew that this is the game that's going to kick things off. They didn't say anything. But at the same time, the USFL was doing their draft thing. And that was like, this was the one window. And I really think that both leagues are just trying not to step on each other's toes. And they're not trying to be mean to each other. Or, you know what I mean? Like push out the same thing. They're trying to be fair to each other. So that's why I think maybe they kicked the can a little bit and did it today and Monday, because that's huge news. I mean, if the USFL is talking about their draft thing in the morning and then 2 hours later, the XFL drops this bomb that was on NFL Network, that was on ESPN, that was on, Sports Illustrated and all sorts of different avenues. This was big news today. Also, I really think if I'm a betting man, I cannot see a possibility why the XFL games would not be on the NFL Network. I just don't see. I think it's got to be NFL Network. I think it's got to be ESPN, ABC, and maybe Amazon. That's just my guess. Who does not want to partner with The Rock, Danny Garcia, when it comes to television? Why wouldn't you want to do that? Let's see. Cyril says the 2023 XFL season will be awesome. I'm excited. Six Mike Film says this is exciting news. Hey crew, hope all is well. Dropping in from Phoenix, Arizona. What's up? Yeah, message us in the chat. Where are you guys from, by the way? Let's see. Andrew G said, very interested in USFL draft tomorrow. Maybe a surprise name or prospect. Can't wait to find out. Rumblings from our own Mike Mitchell that maybe Jordan Ta'amu is on that list. Jordan Ta'amu could be there. That would be a big, I hope they do a big swing and get somebody big on there. Greg says, any corroboration with the other league will consist of that the cities in that league to second class status. I say no to development football. Now, again, this is not a development football per se. This is sharing data when it comes to best practices, things that they're doing. I think this is a win for both leagues. The XFL is getting that, especially that connection with the NFL. That's going to interest players playing for the NFL. Also, being able to have another league where they can test the kickoff rule and they can say, hey, look, this is what the XFL did. This is what the data showed. Let's do it. I think the XFL's kickoff is coming to the NFL. And it's these type of things, the equipment. I think Danny Garcia and The Rock, Redbird Capital, came in, talked to the NFL, and they were like, this is where we need to go. This is the kind of vision that can take us to the next level. And The Rock has got the connection with the audience that the NFL wants. And that's a big thing too. And that's why they picked up the phone. Paladin says, is it going to be legit or the NFL drag beep like the CFL? Let's see what else here. Matt Lyons checking in. What's up, Mr. Matt? Alistar says, I like the XFL NFL thing. Me too. JDP says they just lost a fan. Greg says NFL goal is to grow players for their league. DJP, who cares about NFL's goal? This was supposed to be a new, refreshing league, not the same status quo. It is certainly not the same status quo. Not really sure what you're talking about there. I don't have a problem with this all across. This is good news. If you want to, none of these. If they were a developmental league, it would be like NFL Europe, and neither one of these aren't. But if you think for a second that somehow these players would rather play in the USFL or get practice squad money or even game day money, which is better in the NFL, like that's just the way it is. They will always be a feeder. These two will be a feeder system to the NFL. They're just not going to be called a developmental league. And if you have a problem with the whole developmental thing, then just don't watch. Watch SpongeBob or cricket or whatever else going on. Chris says NFL will become Big Brother, XFL Little Brother. Seems XFL needs a partner. They tried the CFL, didn't go through, so they decided to try the NFL, which means XFL is afraid of USFL getting a leg up. And maybe that's true. I mean, the XFL went the CFL route. They tried to do something together, and then they went to the NFL. I mean, they just basically go up to everybody with the clout that Danny Garcia and The Rock bring. And it's like, hey, let's talk. Let's figure things out. So there's definitely a different, interesting approach that they have there too. Fern says, I don't think a developmental league made an NFL practice squad players is not a bad idea, but that's just me. Chris says, Stallion is a stud horse. Rockstar Rod, everyone is in red. Chris says, cool. Chris says, the helmet is the best. Talking about the gamblers, the helmet is the best, but if you could be even better, they would make the Panther meaner with bigger fangs. Okay. Lots of chat in here. Where's the super chat? Zach says McDonald's uniform versus a collaboration with the NFL. I wonder which league has their stuff together more. Ooh, ouch, ouch. Where is the super chat? Is it not in here? Oh, here's a super chat. All right. Without question, drop in the super chat. He just gets jumped up over everybody. Says, if an NFL team wants to sign a player contractually, how will that affect a current player? So in the USFL right now, if that player wanted to try out for so his USFL player has a great, leads Tampa Bay Bandits to a championship game, and the NFL, like the Baltimore Ravens, say, hey, you got a great wide receiver there. We want to try you out. The USFL's contract with its players says that if you want to try out for an NFL team, then we will allow you to get released from your contract. You sign a contract with the USFL, you're in for 2 years. Unless an NFL team wants to sign you, then they will release you from your contract, you try out, and usually if you're going to try out, they're going to sign you. That they could sign you for 10 days. Here's the kicker. They sign you for 10 days, they sign you for whatever, then they cut you. Technically, now you're free game for the XFL to bring on if they wanted to. Something to keep in mind of this little loophole. But yes, both leagues will absolutely be opened up for the being able to sign with the NFL. So there's no question about that. Without question, thank you for the super chat. We really appreciate that. We love super chats. Definitely something to help out the channel. All right, let's get to some of your social media stuff right after this, my friends. Stay tuned, all right? What's up, XFL Army? If you're a fan of the XFL News Hub and you have a telephone, which I know all of you do because you're sitting there playing on your phones all the time, then why not download the XFL News Hub app? That's right, it's on iTunes. It's on Android. We have an Android version and an iPhone version of the XFL News Hub app. So what do you get? You get the latest news from XFL News Hub, the premier source of XFL news in the universe. Plus, you get push notifications when we have breaking news. You will be the first to know. You can leave a comment on some of the news right from your phone. Plus, you get this podcast on your phone as well. Remember, you can leave us reviews on the Google Play Store or iTunes. It links to other social media, our other social media accounts, and so much more. Be in the know. I know you're on your phones. People are on their phones all the time. They never get off their phones. So why not just download the XFL News Hub app on your Android or iPhone today? All you need to do is go to the Google Play Store or iTunes and just type in XFL News Hub. That's XFL News Hub. Download our app on your phone today. All right, my friends, let's get to your social media stuff. On the Facebook about our question of the week about the XFL and NFL collaboration, Javier says, Rock Springs speaks for itself, and all of us XFL, and we just want to know it's a good thing or bad thing because we as fans, as XFL fans, are one. We to be itself, but since this announcement this morning, Rock have partnership with the NFL, like maybe he did that because some coaches and players got cut from the league and come to the XFL as a backup. I don't know. I think this agreement has been in the works, of course, for a long time, since the fall. So I think I'm not really sure what you're talking about there, broski. Bruce talking about the more details. He says, don't do it. The NFL isn't fun anymore. It's like a plastic toy compared to an old days. It sucks. Yikes. Larry says, please add the CFL to your collaboration talks. He did. And the CFL did not want to play. But the CFL has got that Genius Sports thing, and I think that is going to be huge for them. I think the CFL didn't need the XFL, but it certainly needed Genius Sports, and I think having them to help kind of modernize their league, I think is a good thing. I think as much as people want to, I think even Mike Mitchell has said that there was really never a plan to play a season in 2022 because of what's going on. They just didn't want to go there. They wanted to give themselves a little bit more time. Derek says the NFL is going to use you guys and abuse you guys. LOL. You might have one good season. That's all. Good luck. I don't think that's true. About the ranking of the uniforms, best to worst. Gee, we got a lot of engagement on this one. I'll just read two. Harry says, just bring back the NFL Europe teams and have them play in the spring. Good way for the NFL to regain popularity in Europe and beyond. Just my humbled opinion. Hey, I'll throw this out there. If the NFL and the XFL are talking, they could be like, yo, bro, Raj, this is The Rock, DJ talking to you. Well, let us use your NFL Europe stuff in the XFL. You're not using it now. Let us use NFL and we'll fire up NFL Europe. I wonder if that's what they meant. Could you imagine that XFL goes that gangster level? Hey, we're going to bring back NFL Europe, but that's NFL Europe teams are going to be part of the XFL. But isn't there a problem because the ELF has like the Barcelona Dragons? So I'm not sure. That would be a little out there. Ryan says also, why are 4 of the 8 teams using the same color schemes, red and gold? A little creativity would be nice. Remember, they're using the same color. I get what you're saying. They're using the same color scheme as the logos had. So, I mean, there's only so much you can do with it, my friends. Only so much you can do. On to let's go to Instagram. Talking about our question of the week, your reaction to the XFL NFL collaboration. Russell, the truth seeker. I want to hear more details regarding this collaboration. I was hoping the XFL would be a standalone league, just like the Canadian Football League. It is. It is still a standalone league. They're just partnered together. They're sharing data. They're testing things out. They're working together. They're collaborating, but they're not. They're still a standalone league. Danny Garcia said it. I know you guys, cynics out there, and we love to talk about cynics. That's what Danny Garcia said. We're not a development league, and we're not just, doing player stuff. Like if the XFL was like, the DC Defenders is the farm system for the whatever Washington Commanders. That's a developmental league. This is not. Maybe Redbird Capital would love to do that one day, but then there's potential ownership that's been chattered with both USFL and XFL. So who knows? And this definitely, if you're talking about you want to be an owner in a league, would you rather be an owner in the USFL with its connection to Fox, which is great, or would you rather be an owner of XFL franchise with its connection to the NFL? XFL_fanatic says USFL just got the spotlight stolen by the XFL. I agree with that, but not for very long, because tomorrow's going to be the next 2 days are going to be huge for the USFL. I don't think we will hear anything from the XFL. I assume the rest of the week, maybe you want to get something in on a Friday, but other than that, the draft is going to take place, the next 2 days. I think you'll get the USFL draft. Then maybe Thursday or Friday we'll get a schedule released. If not, maybe tomorrow morning. We'll see. And then we'll let that whole play out And really, then they got their players, they got the schedule, and it's go time for the USFL. Watts _117. At long last, we get news. Yes, it was very nice. I was about to go to Costco with my wife, and then all of a sudden, all this stuff came. And I was not anticipating. I thought today was going to be a slow news day. It was not. 6 Mike Films. Thanks for keeping us updated. This is awesome. Spring Wars. Yes. Spring football wars are on, my friends. It is on. These guys are going to go at it. And we are lucky enough to be along for the ride and enjoy the fun that they have on there. All right, let's go to the YouTubes. Run through these real quick. James Mesner, I appreciate your response to my voicemail as well as my comments. You make spring football accessible for all people, which is highly appreciated. The more exposure to these leagues, the more fun for all of us. This is true. Thank you very much. James Theodore King says, I love the XFL News Hub intro. Yes. Adding some new graphics. We got a new microphone. We're upgrading. We got fantasy football. Working on CFL apps for CFL News Hub. All sorts of fun stuff going on here. 343 Foxden said these USFL people have their heads up their backsides. No schedule, uniforms, merchandise of anything significant, etc. Remember, this was last week. This is Monday. A lot has changed 6 days ago. I thought we were waiting until after the Super Bowl to reveal everything. Well, clearly they did this. They just waited till after the Super Bowl to kind of get their run in. Greg says, chill out, Mark. Everything is going to be all right with the USFL. Fox and NBC are broadcast networks. They have plenty of airtime available to promote the USFL. Even the Super Bowl and its massive audience can't compare with 2 full months of broadcast time. This is true. Gregory is true. Trust me, he says. These people know what they're doing. I agree with that. I am here on the ground in Birmingham, and I can assure you the people are here are ready. Protective Stadium and Legion Field are ready. The city is putting millions of dollars for upgrades at Legion Field. So take a deep breath and come down for a big game between the Generals and Stallions on April 16th. P.S. My prediction is Protective Stadium will be the mothership of the USFL. I'm looking for USFL. I'm looking at fan control football, my schedule. And this depends on how things go. Lots of stuff going on. Friends are getting married, all sorts of things. My schedule, I'm trying to get down to fan control football because it's easy. I could fly to Atlanta and I'm right there. Getting to Birmingham is expensive to fly. The cheapest way to do it is you got to fly into Atlanta and then drive 4 hours to Birmingham. So getting to Birmingham is a little bit more cumbersome. But I want to be able to at least go to a fan control. I cannot wait to see the fan control football stadium. I'm super excited to see that. We're planning on having somebody from fan control football on the show to talk about NFTs in their new stadium in the next coming weeks. But there's so much USFL, XFL stuff. I don't want to get that lost in the shuffle. Maybe when we get closer to the season and we get more details about their stadium, but the pictures look awesome. So head down there. Then also maybe in May, try to make it to a USFL game before the big championship game that I have to tell my wife that it's actually July 3rd, not July 4th. She's not going to be happy with that. Guys, do I just not tell her? Leave me a message in the chat. Should I lie to my wife? Wait till we get to the game and be like, oh, it's on the 3rd. I thought it was on the 2nd. Sorry, we're going to have to stay another day. I don't think I should do that. I don't even want to know your guys' answers. I don't think you guys are very good with the ladies. Just saying. Can't Wake Up. Interesting name. It was weird. I was expecting just a small ad during the 4th quarter telling people about the USFL and that football isn't over. Fox even tweeted that football was over and we had to wait until next season. I agree with that. I thought all that stuff was weird. DJ Scandalous says probably the NFL wouldn't allow a promotion of it. But the USFL and NFL have a good relationship too. So I don't know about that. As for the USFL and XFL, I hope they both do well and merge. Even though all the original USFL names are better than the XFL team names, Battlehawks are nice. It goes on to talk about some of the things. Again, I don't know if these guys are going to be able to go head to head for all these years. Jared said, totally agree with you. The USFL is missing with chances to make the league much. Oh, Falua says, my opinion, it has nothing to do with the XFL. The Rock has his own TV show on NBC. Jared says, totally agree with you. The USFL is missing many chances to make the league much better. I am stunned with no commercials during the Super Bowl. Maybe they think that this is the spring league. The USFL needs to show urgency to win fans over because the XFL will be coming for them in 2023. They will show no mercy. WWE reference. John says, Mark, love the new opening and outro. Huge upgrade. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Putting money into the show. Shark Attack. You sound very scary, Shark Attack. I've been doing a lot of homework, but I think that's what is going to be a developmental league for the NFL. I guess he's talking about the XFL. Not only players, but teams also. They will build up teams, getting them up to their full potential, then hand them over to the NFL and on to the next team in a city. Interesting. Mexico City, Toronto, St. Louis, Oakland, San Diego, San Antonio, London are all markets NFL interested in. I hope this isn't so. I like the XFL as its own entity. Shark Attack brings up an interesting point, and this was posted 4 days ago. The XFL and this collaboration, remember they talked about in their international markets. I think the XFL went to the NFL and was like, we're planning on doing Toronto, Mexico City, London. And our first iteration, the NFL was like, we want to know how that goes. Tell us how to do it. Let the XFL go into these markets, build up a team. And you're right. The NFL can say, hey, we're going to put an expansion franchise. Are you kidding me? If the XFL put up a team in Toronto and fans knew in Toronto that if the XFL team in Toronto was a successful franchise, that the NFL would come to Toronto, how do you think that team would draw in Toronto versus a CFL team? As an example, St. Louis, they can do it there. London would be a market where they could show up with an XFL franchise and be like, hey, we're gonna run this, and if this team does really well in London, the XFL, the NFL are gonna put a team here. They could use that. I mean, that's that collaboration. And then especially when they talk about international players, I wonder if the XFL is going to basically take the global initiative that the CFL did and go run with that idea on their own. Because this would give the NFL access to international players that the XFL could build up. I think and the league is talking about opportunity, so we will see. James says, I wish the XFL need to start to draft more HBUC players. A lot of players from SWAC. It's going to be really interesting to see, James, how the USFL draft is tomorrow. We will be live at 7 p.m. Eastern talking about it. Markcast on at 6 for your pre-show. Harrison says USFL marketing machine is full go. XFL missed an opportunity. Not even make a post celebrating being 1 year away. I totally agree with that. That's what bothered me about, you're on me. I was supposed to be on the YouTubes. So now you can see what I'm looking at. Yes, I agree. The USFL marketing machine is full go. The XFL missed an opportunity. But again, talking about 1 year away. You notice they didn't say anything. They were just talking about the NFL, but not this 1 year away thing. But The Rock tweeted a couple times today, responding to people's tweets about the XFL and NFL thing and how excited he was about that. All right, let's get to the Twitter. Knocking these things out. Knew the show was going to be long, but we got a lot to talk about. Major League Football talks 2022 season, cities, and coaches. Tryout dates coming soon. This was part of their press release. Well, apparently, Alt Football Scout thought it was clickbait. He said, spoiler alert, everyone. There's no real news. The league just said important information is coming real soon, like they have the past 5 years running. How is that clickbait? I like it when MLB fan comes to my defense. It says, why would you consider this clickbait? The title states the facts of the article. The PR talks about a 2022 season that deals with coaches, cities, websites, social media are all coming soon. The headline is pretty spot on. And I get accused of this a lot by people that don't really know even what clickbait is. So I said, that's not clickbait at all. A clickbait title would be unbelievable news coming from MLFB never heard before. That, my friend, is a clickbait title because you would click on it and it would be news that we've heard before. Again, we'll get into that, but people are like, and I'm like, I didn't even write, that's a press release, bro. Zach posted this. Jordan Cronkite said, I just turned 25 last November. USFL told me I was too old to be in their draft pool, LOL. I don't know what the deal is with that. There's going to be guys over 25 in the USFL draft pool. I just found that odd. I don't know if that's true. Maybe somebody just told him, or he's just making it up. But I saw that, and I just felt that was strange. On the report about the USFL playoffs being played in Canton, Ohio, will the rosters have players by then? Yes. Jay, figure 4-pointer tomorrow. Do you think the Herd will devote a segment to today? Should they're talking about the inaugural game and the championship game being played at Tom Benson Stadium? What is the Herd going to talk about, Colin? What are you going to talk about? Oh, Aaron Rodgers, blah, blah, blah. Baker Mayfield, blah, blah, blah. You could have put a segment on this. I mean, if I'm Fox, any of those shows, crank it up. You could totally do a segment on this, but apparently didn't even mention it. Vanster 2000 says more likely it'll be Pro Football Talk doing the piece. After all, Mike needs to extend the olive branch in regards to spring football, season football. His employer has signed on to broadcast package partner with USFL. It's true. That is true. Do you think Pro Football Talk is going to talk about the USFL as a fledgling league? I can't wait to see the word fledgling going next to the USFL. And because they are partnering with the NFL, I don't think he will use that word at all. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you got to go back to a video a long time ago when it comes to me and Pro Football Talk, which I don't watch at all. Mike Mitchell has his uniform rankings. What do you think about this? He says, subject to change over time. You just sit on it for a little bit and you change your mind. He's got Panthers 1, Generals 2. He's got Stars 3. That is incredible. Bandits 4, Stallions 5, Breakers 6, Gamblers 7, and Maulers 8. I'm hoping that Maulers is number 1. He's got Stars at number 3. I hope 3. Mostly for nostalgia. Nathan Hahn says, plus having launched sports brands before, I can tell you that fan reactions are almost always mixed to negative. Interesting psychology experiment. So the fact that fan reaction on social is mixed to positive is a good thing. I think, and Mike Mitchell agrees, I agree with him too. I think it has been, the uniforms are mostly positive. I put out here 1 year from today, the XFL will kick off its 2023 season. And it's me, Pocono Pete says, XFL has never officially announced that. Keep that in mind. I know they haven't really officially announced anything, but we saw it on the picture. And that's 1 week after the Super Bowl. And we've also heard that before. Farhan Lalji, CFL, bring the CFL thing. We're talking about Dwayne Johnson, DJ. I don't know if I'm allowed to call him if we're not that close yet. Talking about Troy Vincent and the XFL NFL alignment. Farhan Lalji, of course, is been on the Marcast a couple times. Great reporter in Canada covering the CFL. He said, I know many dismissed the XFL when they were in discussions with the CFL. Clearly, the NFL believes this is a viable entity. Any formal association on the player development side will lead to many American players viewing that as a more viable option to get to the NFL than the CFL is. Speaking the truth. Speaking the truth. So that is an interesting take from Farhan. That connection to the NFL is very powerful for the XFL. Richard O for real. About our question of the week, he says, I think this is fantastic news, and about time we got some news from the league. Now I hope they get a good television streaming service deal with the news. Me too. Arena Ken Gill says, I would bet that by 2025 or 2026, you will see 2 XFL teams in Europe, one in England and one in Germany. This will test the waters for the NFL, who is dying to get a team in London. I think I agree with you there on that. This is going back to Andy Murray's question. Andy Paul Murray, at Andy Paul Murray. Let me throw a question back to you, Mark. All right, I got it. Do you think there will be an international team in the mix for the 2023 season? Given the NFL's and XFL's desire to explore international play, this may create an avenue for them to test out further opportunities. I haven't heard anything. I mean, we're not really sure what the teams are. I would not be surprised if the league played conservative. They're just trying to get everybody. If you heard Brian Wood speak this past week on, he was getting interviewed by somebody, and it's just that litmus test of getting through the first season. Do you really want to deal international stuff on your first year? That's bold. That is bold to stick a team, and you could do it in Mexico. In London, do you really want to have that your first season if you're just trying to get through the season? And I think having an international team to the XFL would come very soon. Remember, if they're talking about year-round content, the first year of just getting the league up is plenty of content to be covered. Year 2 is, reaction from year 2, going into year 2, plus the story arc of a franchise in a foreign country like New Mexico or London or Toronto. That in itself, that's why I think they would kick that, but not too far. I really think they're just trying to get through the first season here. On our question of the week, Bill_Ricard_Jr. says, I see it as a positive, though. I have seen some comments that makes the XFL feel minor league. I don't see it that way. What are your thoughts? Respond on people seeing it that way. They don't know what they're talking about. USFL, XFL are all going to be the CFL. These are all the second tier football leagues to the NFL. There is not a single player for the most part. Yes, you'll get your 10% that are loyalists to the USFL or the loyalists to CFL way. But I mean, you're taking your top players, if you think Speedy Banks could have gotten a shot playing in the NFL when he was at his prime, which I don't know why he wouldn't have gotten a shot. I don't know why anyone wouldn't call up and have him on their team. A guy like him, Charleston Hughes, who was big back in the day, even Andrew Harris, a guy, the NFL wouldn't be interested in him now. And he kind of was more on the late bloomer in the CFL. But any of these guys, you're going to pass up. Some of these guys are getting good money in the CFL right now. Some of these, but they're only getting a year contract, 2-year contract tops. So really the NFL is the big dog and everybody's just feeding them. But the CFL is kind of like a tier 2, where I think the USFL and XFL right now are kind of a tier 3, where, guys can have a good career and a longevity in the CFL and make some decent coin, where in the XFL and USFL, there's just uncertainty. And like, if you know anything about the stock market, uncertainty hurts. Max Scatz asks us, remember, the USFL was supposed to announce their TV schedule this afternoon, as Mike said in his article. I wonder why that didn't happen. It's almost like the XFL stole the show and the USFL didn't know how to respond. I really think that they just push that off because the XFL could have come out with this news on Friday. They waited till Monday. They're giving each other space, working space to kind of operate. And so the XFL was the day before the draft. So they dropped their news there. I think the USFL, because remember, the USFL always drops their stuff around 9:00 in the morning. This was later on in the day. This world of spring football is a small world. So I think that they held off and let the USFL have its day with its draft. And I think I would say Thursday, you would get the USFL's schedule. If not, maybe tomorrow morning before the draft. Might drop the schedule during the day and then have the draft at night to really build things up. We will just have to stay tuned and find out. All right, that's social media stuff. Let's get into our emails and phone calls and such. Podcast. Let's put that there. All right. Paladin checking in. Okay. With his thing, made progress of my college and XFL themed teams, main colors and shading done, getting secondary colors started and shading completed coins, turn markers and balls. All the very cool stuff. You have to send me one. I want to definitely check that out. Why not put them up? When we hook up the new studio, which is something down the road this summer, perhaps. I need to focus on not building a studio, but writing more code. Guy says, talking about the MLFB Talk Spring 2022 season, hires a CFO. That came out also this week. You don't even have a website yet, and you plan on bringing a league to bear in the spring of 2022. Don't make the same mistake the AAF did. Get your funding secure for an entire season, stadium deals, personnel ready to go on the admin side. Then start talking about playing games. I think MLFB needs to put this stuff out in order to appease the SEC because they are a publicly traded company. They are penny stocks. You can buy penny stock. I think that's worth 1 or 2 cents. I think Dogecoin is worth more. And I think I thought about buying some, like, a couple hundred shares just for fun. But part of me thinks it's just showing the SEC that you're not just sitting on that money, that you're actually trying to do something, is why these things come out. Because I agree with you 100%. Guy also is talking about the Pittsburgh Maulers could soon be one of the first teams to move in 2023 too. But again, it was kind of like they were, but then it was kind of, I don't know. He says, regardless of what might happen next year, do not go into NFL-sized stadiums right off the bat. The original USFL did that, and even when decent-sized crowds showed up, even with the lowly Washington Federal averaged 14,000 its first season, they were swallowed by these 55 and 80,000 seat stadiums. Many colleges have 25 to 40,000 stadiums, and that are going to look much better attended, and the perception of a full stadium. Yeah, I agree with that. I went to the Orlando Apollos game at UCF Stadium, capacity 45,000. The crowd of likely 30,000 really filled the place out nicely. Checking in there. All right, let's get to our first phone call, shall we, my friends?
Hey, this is your friend James calling back to leave another voicemail. It is currently February 17th, 2022, as I'm leaving this voicemail, the day of the uniform announcements. We have 4 uniform announcements so far. We have the Pittsburgh Maulers, the Houston Gamblers, the Tampa Bay Bandits, and the Birmingham Stallions. And I think we have 2 more to go. We might get them today. I'm not sure. I think we still have New Orleans and one other team left. I can't remember. But 2 things. Number 1, real quick, I don't like the fact that the draft lottery is being broadcast on some random Fox show. I don't think most people have traditional cable. I think it'd be wiser to maybe put the draft on like Peacock or something, since you're already going to have some of the games on Peacock and NBC. Maybe make it Peacock exclusive. That way people who have Peacock, or set up a YouTube channel and maybe put it on YouTube. That was number 1 point. Number 2 point is, it's so frustrating. It's obvious that people don't know that they are trying to pay homage to the original USFL of the 1980s, especially Pittsburgh fans who are like, why are the uniforms orange and purple? Google it and you'll find out. They're trying to make the old uniforms look modern. They're trying to make the color schemes look like the uniforms. I think the colors, schemes, and everything look awesome. I don't know why people are so gung-ho and so negative, but I like all of it. I don't like the fact that they are broadcasting the draft lottery on this random Fox show. I wish they'd go a different route, but I get it. They have a partnership with Fox, and so they probably have to do it. But
all right. Thanks for the phone call. I agree. The draft lottery, I'm glad they did something. It kind of felt like it was supposed to be on the Herd. Remember the girl that does the news on the Herd? I don't really watch the show. I try not to watch it. I was glad that it wasn't on the Herd, but she was kind of like the ball person. And it did seem kind of rushed, last minute kind of thing. But I am definitely I mean, they're going to use their Fox apparatus to do it, and it's not going to be anything on NBC anytime soon. Maybe they'll do the draft. They should have done the draft on Peacock's Fresh Prince, because that got a ton of commercials during the Super Bowl. But I appreciate the phone call. Let's get into some other stuff. Some emailers here. What else do we got in the email bag? This is from Mike. He says, "Hey, Mark, I really enjoy your articles. Thanks for keeping us informed on spring football. Can you tell me if there is an updated list of players who are in the USFL draft pool? I see the USFL analyst has been posting them, but I'm not sure if they are posting all of them." So remember, there's no concrete list. It's just basically people seeing guys posting on Twitter and adding them to a list. Maybe they've talked to some agents that have that too, but there's really no definitive list that I know of. And I think there's going to be a lot of surprise names that we have no idea tomorrow. Super excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. He says, "Do you think the MLFB is really going to get up and running this spring?" No, absolutely not. No way. Andy checking in. He says, "Mark, looks like the new USFL is really taking shape. My question to you, Mark, is a simple one. How many more teams do you think they will have for the next season? Thanks, buddy, for reading my question. Hope you're doing well. God bless you. God bless you too, Andy, my friend. I appreciate that. Love the God bless to all you guys out there. Really appreciate that. They're not going to have any teams until these guys move. There's going to be no new USFL teams for the first 3 years. That's a guarantee. Unless this thing just blows up like hotcakes and they're moving 6 teams out of Birmingham next season, which I just don't see. I think their slow, methodical approach is their business model, and that's what they're going to go. Aaron says, "How can I try out for the XFL?" You can't. There is no tryouts for the XFL. They could have a combine in the fall. We've heard about that. That might be coming. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But as far as I know, there was never an open trials for the USFL. There's not going to be open trials for the XFL. So you need an agent. Hub Football is where you should go. Hub Football is where you want to get seen. And speaking of getting seen, how about another phone caller?
Hey, absolutely love your show. Hey, I just want to say I think the best USFL uniform that just came out was the Houston Gamblers, and that's a homer pick straight up, being honest. I'm in Texas right now, and I'm looking forward to watching them on TV. I think it was also a great idea to have the championship games right at Canton there. I thought that was a really good idea just for more regional exposure, if that makes any sense. And also the only uniform I would drastically overhaul and change is I wish the Pittsburgh team was black, as black and yellow, or yellow and black, however you want to, or black and gold, however you want to put it. Just because I noticed with the city of Pittsburgh at their pro athlete level, that seems to be a standard bearer. Kind of wish they'd do that if they call the NFL and be like, "Hey, if we make them the same colors, would you guys sue us?" And if they said no, it'd be kind of cool if they would do that, just so it's continual. But that's my only real tweak. Everything else I thought was really good. It's just weird seeing a Pittsburgh team that's not like yellow and black or black and gold, whatever their colors officially are. But just this my take. But everything else I thought was absolutely amazing. Even like the names of all the teams. Anyway, that's just my comment on everything. Love your show. Hope you have a great day, and God bless.
All right. Yes. That's 2. God bless. Love it. Thank you for the phone call. Yeah. Canton, Ohio was a big get. I think that was a brilliant way to do it. Right there, football country, and right there at the Pro Football Hall of Fame makes it a fun weekend to do. Much better. No knock against Houston, but just Houston at a college stadium was like, meh. But, going to Canton, Ohio for people to check out a USFL game and then go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame is a win-win. And that would definitely generate a lot of buzz. I was earlier the negative, but yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh Penguins have the same color scheme, and it would have been cool to reverse it. Mostly yellow with a little bit of black would have been fine. But yeah, I kind of agree with you there, but they were trying to pay homage to the original Pittsburgh Maulers, and that was in their color scheme. So there's nothing you can do about that. I got another email from some guy, storm warning, complaining about how stuff was misspelled and how he is a reporter. Let The only thing I can tell you is that he still didn't answer my question of what exactly USFL thing. I think he's referring to the press release. That's a press release. I did not write the press release, Mr. Storm Warning. I don't know why you're I appreciate the feedback. I like to get feedback if something is wrong, but I think there was, and he was telling me like how you should do dates and whatever. That was a USFL press release. You may want to talk to them. Finally, Danny checking in. Not sure if I like the announcement of the partnership, talking about the XFL and USFL, or XFL and NFL, all these FLs. Of course, this may bring legitimacy to the league, but it always felt like the rule innovation aspect was an unspoken thing about the league. But I guess now that there's another league in the mix, they felt it was necessary to make a formal announcement. Yeah, maybe. Of course, I hope this turns out to be positive for the league, but I never wanted the league to just be looked at as a sideshow for the NFL, but I'll take whatever I can get to make this league a success. I feel that this announcement cuts into the view of independence that the XFL 2.0 era had. I hear what you're saying. I mean, it could give you that vibe, but I think if you were going to do anything with the NFL, I think this is as far as you take it, as just kind of a partnership or collaboration. I think if you got into all the players on the DC Defenders are eligible to be on the Philadelphia Eagles and the, Washington Commanders and the, Carolina Panthers. That's the integration that I think becomes the NFL sideshow. I don't think this is part of that. I think this is about as best as you would do, but I agree. I wouldn't take this any farther with that. All right, let's wrap it up. The show. Let's get back to our chat room. We got our Facebook chats here. We got Michael says, how was your week and what is your favorite USFL team uniform? I have to go with the Nolans Breakers. And he said, Danny Garcia made it clear with ESPN, the XFL will not be a developmental league. Yes, she said it, but people are still like, well, not now or in the future. Twitter is blowing up with misinformation about the NFL will have the rights to using XFL players. That is absolutely not true. And Michael says, my favorite uniform is the Nolan Breakers. I agree with you there. My friend. I am interested. That's my favorite too. I love my Tampa Bay Bandits as well. Let's see here. Stock Speed Tech says, let's see. Dale says, let's see a little bit. Dynasties would be good for all the leagues, talking about our fantasy thing. Without question, if I'm not mistaken, it was a conflict. Talking about Josh Johnson. Let's see here. Zach says, when is the next XFL News Hub show? That, I believe, is coming in March. It's going to be right around, it's getting spam in here. Let's see. Hide this user. That is coming. Let's see here. I'm just looking. There's a ton of messages in here, and I just lost it. Oh man, you guys are all in here. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking about March time frame for the bringing back CFL News Hub. That's going to be on Wednesday nights at 9, I believe. The CFL show will return, especially around when the CFL draft happens. We'll bring that back. Rookie_X4. Did the CFL miss the chance for not collaborating with the XFL? I think this was the way to go. I think it worked out for everybody in the end, and they didn't need to do that. Merging the leagues and changing the rules to the CFL is just not, you don't want to go down that path. And there's a lot of old school owners up in there. And I think that's going to change over time. And I think the chatter with the XFL was a good thing in the long run for the league. Theodore King says, rookie, the CFL left the door open for future considerations. Chris says the XFL wants a big brother, more power to them, but I'd rather be like the USFL, not under anybody's shadow. I think they're all right there. Terry says, is the XFL going to add more teams? We're hearing that either 8 or 10. That's kind of been the rumbling out there, that they could add 2 more teams. They keep talking about international all the time. Remember, they hired somebody who is an international ticket person they were looking for. So I think they are going to do something. I just don't know if they're going to do it now. But we'll see about that. Dale says the CFL tried to expand to the States. Failure. It was a failure. Didn't last very long. And I don't think they're going to try to go down that path anytime soon. And remember, the other thing about the CFL, and I like the CFL. I can't wait for the season. I'm super excited, especially to be doing fantasy football for the CFL. So I'm a fan of the CFL, but I'm a realist too. And the problem with the CFL is that these American markets were desperate for football to put on in the spring and in the summer. If the CFL was a viable product, the Fox would have went and just said, "Hey, let's just air CFL games on Fox." And that's going to fill the void and we don't have to worry about it. And maybe the CFL would add a couple of teams in the United States. We'll do a trial run with CFL games in the United States on Fox and FS1. And then if all goes well, Fox we'll add 4 teams that will be part of the CFL in the next season. And they didn't do it because that's the problem with the CFL, in the United States market. It's that these guys could have done something and they didn't. And the numbers for the streaming and ESPN Plus, we can't even get those numbers. Mike Mitchell tries to get those numbers and can't be in there. Matt Lyons, check it in. Yes, he is our number one reporter when it comes to the ELF, talking ELF. He is every week on over the weekends. He does a great recap of all the stuff going on in the ELF. They had a good season and they're coming in strong in the next. So they're back at it. Craig says, I missed the XFL a lot when they were playing a few years ago. It rocked. Yes, it did. Let's see what else. Zach says, be honest with Mrs. News Hub. All right, I will be honest with Mrs. News Hub. I thought maybe she came down here, but no, she didn't. I will be honest with Mrs. News Hub. I promise. Zach said I should be. He's a smart guy, so I'm going to go with Zach. Chris says Canton Championship is going to be lit. Yeah, I think we got to find a bar in the area. I don't know if we would do a meetup or we do we do a live stream? I don't know if I just kind of want to just chill and hang out. I don't know if I'll be doing stuff behind the scenes with the league. I don't know. Theodore King said XFL teams in Europe would be crazy travel. Yeah, I think that's too expensive. That's why I just don't see that doing the first season. That to me is kind of crazy. King Dallas 24 Cowboy says, about time New Jersey has a football team. Let's go. All right. We got some spam there. Let's see. And that's about it. There we got. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Appreciate everybody on Facebook for checking in. Appreciate it for everybody on you guys checking in. Remember, tomorrow, Markcast, February 22nd, 6 p.m. tomorrow. Check out their live stream about the pre-show to the USFL draft. Then we'll get the handoff, and then we will do it at 7 o'clock. We'll probably run for about an hour, maybe longer, because it's just going to be filler. I had to figure out what we're going to do with all that time waiting between picks. And then February 23rd at 6 p.m., Markcast goes back live for full recap of the USFL draft. Should be a lot of fun. So you should definitely check on that on all the social media stuff. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, and remember, News Hub Fantasy, my friends, you can go over there right now. News Hub Fantasy. Remember, that's not the site. That's the new look that's coming. But go head over to News Hub Fantasy. Love for you to be part of it. If you want to be a tester, support at News Hub Fantasy. Let us know. And as always, you're going in there, you find some bugs, let me know. And we will kind of fix it. And if you're an ASP.NET developer, we would love to have you on board to help us out and get you some game tickets. You want to be part of the show? Email podcast at XFL News Hub with your thoughts, or record an MP3 or video, or leave a voicemail like our friends did this week. We'll play it on next week's show, 888-430-7692, extension 3. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We will read it on the show. We really appreciate that. To help spread the word about spring football. And you can watch us live every week. XFL Week in Review at 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, on Twitch, all of that kind of stuff. And the timeline, of course, you know about that. Kickoff is less than a year away from the XFL. What a great show. Thanks for everybody for hanging out. We are 2 hours and 8 minutes. Thanks for everybody hanging out the whole freaking time. That is awesome. We love our spring football community. We finally have things to be excited about. USFL draft tomorrow. Lots to talk about then. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be another great week of spring football news. So you're just going to have to hang out and enjoy it. For show notes, xflnewshub.com/xfl-podcast. If you want to click on the link. Remember, it's News Hub Fantasy. Thanks for listening. God bless to you all. Mahalo out there. God bless to you all. I really appreciate you guys for hanging out with it. And I will see you all not later at all. No, I'm wasting time. But tomorrow, 7 p.m. We'll see you then. God bless.